Have you ever wanted to be fighting someone and been so powerful that you put the fear of God in them, causing them to strip down and accept their end from the firing squad, which is you and your trusty hammer?
No, don't do it!
Line that bitch up.
So in the base game of Elden Ring, we had a few weapons with Ashes of War that would allow you to actually throw your weapons at your opponent, but they were pretty lackluster. Damage was mid, they were too slow and can be seen from a mile away, so no one would really use them in PvP because you just couldn't hit anyone with them to save your life. But with the drop of the newest DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, FromSoft really stepped up their game with some new throwable weapons. And by stepped up their game, I mean they made them absolutely overpowered to fight with. And so before we get into the rest of the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and join the Discord link down below so you don't miss out on any of my future videos related to Elden Ring. But anyways, as you can see, these things hit like an absolute truck. Now, there are a few other throwing weapons that I may cover in a later video, but as for now, we're going to focus on the main three I would consider the best throwing weapon released with the DLC. But first, let's go over the quick build I'm using that will help you benefit these weapons as much as possible. Starting off with the Talismans, I use a two-headed turtle talisman for that extra stamina regain because one of these weapons uses up a ton of stam. So I would rather not be caught with my pants down having zero stamina after every throw. The second talisman I use is the Axe Talisman. This allows your charge attacks to hit even harder, which is great since charging these R2s for mix-ups and larger amounts of damage catch off your opponents is absolutely amazing. The third talisman is the Shard of Alexander, which enhances your skills, so if you are using a strong Ash of War on your weapon itself, this can further increase your mix-ups, but this is more so to benefit our shield, which I will go over in just a second. And as for the final talisman, it is the Smithing Talisman. This is a new talisman from the DLC that increases your damage done with throwing weapons. This is a must-have to buff up as much damage as possible with each throw, and as you could tell from the background footage, you'll be hitting extremely hard. And then of course, here are my stats off to the side. If you're wondering why my faith is so damn randomly high, then you'll understand in just a second whenever I start telling you about affinities. And now going into another important part of these throwing weapons is the infinities you can put on these weapons. Whenever you pick an Ash of War afterwards, you're able to equip an affinity to your weapon, and for some reason, having Flame Arts or the Sacred Affinity on your weapon allows you to hit insanely hard. And having such affinities increases your scaling with, yup, you guessed it, faith. That's why I have a very high faith scaling to make sure that these things hit like an absolute truck. Okay, going into the weapons themselves, we'll actually start off with the shield. This is called the Smith Script Shield, but we won't be doing any blocking with this shield, we're going to be doing some throwing. All because of this shield's special Ash of War allowing you to hurl the shield up into the air, and after a second, it shoots out at Mach speed towards whatever enemy you're aiming at. This thing is absolutely insane because the speed on it is so fast, players have a hard time reacting to it and sometimes try and just run sideways rather than rolling to avoid it. But this weapon's tracking and speed is just too good for that, and they'll get caught with a big hit to the face all because of a single mess up. And then of course, this is more so where that Shard of Alexander talisman comes into play, as it buffs the damage of this since it is an Ash of War. That's why you see me hitting upwards of 400 damage on opponents. If you're really buffed up heavy, you can hit upwards of 700 damage, which is absolutely nuts for just a single small shield. This is without a doubt the best weapon in your arsenal. I would trade any Ash of War that you can put on your main hand for this any day of the week. It is such a sleeper weapon. Then that leads us into our main hand weapons. Let's start off with the Smith Script Axe. I believe this weapon pairs perfectly with the shield. It's fast and hard hitting as a normal axe, but its heavy attack is what makes you actually throw the weapon itself. So you're able to do any normal heavy type of swing. Just pressing R2 will make you throw out the weapon, holding it will make you charge up, making it go further and hitting harder, but what makes one of these super amazing is that you can use it from a run attack, making your opponent think you're just swinging too early in a running attack when in reality you're actually launching off a range attack. And on top of the running attacks, yes, you can do the best thing about this, which is jump attacks. Jumping and hitting R2 will launch a mid-air throw attack, which always throws off your opponents. There's no different animations than any of these normal jumping R2 attacks, so players, once again, they will think that you're just whiffing an attack, but in reality, in a millisecond before their brain even realizes it, they already have an axe in their skull, hitting them for huge amounts of damage. And of course, this weapon specifically works great with the shield, as you can rotate between the two for mix-ups, throwing out a shield and then going for a jump attack with the axe to catch your opponent mid-roll, or maybe even off guard thinking that they're safe since they already dodged a shield. These two weapons pair perfectly together. It's literally peanut butter and jelly. But there is still one other weapon that we need to go over for this arsenal, which is the Smith Script Hammer. This is your big boy hitter. It's a little bit easier to see coming as its R2 attacks cause you to do a little ballerina spin before chucking this gargantuan hammer, but if the connect hits with someone, it does massive amounts of damage for just a range attack. So it does still have the running heavy throws like the axe does, but it loses out on the jump heavy throw, which is probably why I prefer the tiny axe overall. But that doesn't mean this hammer is bad in the slightest. It may lose out on the jump attack, but it gains it in other unique aspects. For starters, that ballerina spin that I told you about, it has a hitbox on it, and a little bit of hyper armor, so if you connect the spin onto a player, it guarantees a hit with the throw, doubling up on a ton of damage. And if you get a charge R2 off, which just spins even more and hits even harder, you're bound to one-shot a player outright. I see most players using this specifically, mainly because it's a large weapon, meaning they have the safety of hyper armor on swings, which is just too many people rely on. But if that's your kind of playstyle, then this hammer fits you perfectly. But still pair it with the shield for the fast range attacks, trust me. The mix-ups between slow to fast, they really do throw off people. Overall, this is probably one of my more favorite builds that I've played with. Once players start realizing that they need to dodge the whiff attack itself, I think this weapon may fall off against better players, but others, it'll always be a good, reliable build to use. And I'm level 200 mainly for the convenience of using everything without having to respec much. This build without a doubt would be stronger at lower levels, like being level 100 to like 125, hell even lower. I think this build would absolutely cream on most other players in those evasion brackets. Anyways, that's going to do it for me, everyone. Let me know what you think of these weapons and this build in the comments down below, and let me know if there's anything I missed to make these better or improve my gameplay in any way. But enjoy the rest of these PvP clips I have for you, and have a good one. Peace.